In my past life, I was Willow Blackwood's simp. She caused trouble. I took the blame. She had an incestuous affair, and I was the patsy. She wanted her fake brother to be the top science student, so she dragged me, the top student in our year, to skip class every day so I wouldn't study. In the end, to curry favor with this fake brother, she directly caused my family's ruin and death. Reborn in my senior year of high school, Willow Blackwood was still a slacker, dragging me to skip class every day. On the day of the college entrance exams, she performed as expected and barely got into a community college. Meanwhile, I received an acceptance letter from a top-tier university. She cried out that it was impossible, saying I had no time to study. I shot her a sidelong glance. Was she stupid? I had a guaranteed admission, you idiot. 1. When I opened my eyes again, I saw my deskmate Samuel Sawyer's face looming large before me. I jumped, looking around the senior year classroom, and Samuel, still alive. I had actually been reborn. Samuel waved a hand in front of my face. Sincere, snap out of it, your goddess is in trouble. Willow Blackwood is surrounded by a group of people. It looks like she knocked over someone's camera, and they're demanding she pay for it. Before I could even speak, Samuel hurriedly dragged me away. When we got there, it was just like in my past life. Willow Blackwood was surrounded, playing the victim. I sneered inwardly and gestured for Samuel to keep quiet and just watch the show. A crowd was gathered, pointing and murmuring. On the ground lay a DSLR camera, smashed to pieces. The camera's owner, Victoria Larkin, stared blankly at the wreckage, her eyes red-rimmed, looking like she was about to shatter. But the culprit, Willow Blackwood, was the first to burst into tears. "Vicky, please don't be angry. I didn't do it on purpose," Willow Blackwood cried pitifully, a truly heart-wrenching sight. As the school beauty, she had plenty of admirers, who quickly spoke up. "Victoria Larkin, we're all classmates. Willow didn't do it on purpose. Don't be so unforgiving when you have the upper hand." "Yeah, Victoria Larkin, why did you bring something so expensive to school anyway? It was bound to get bumped or broken sooner or later, right?" "Exactly. Whoever bumped into it would be unlucky." Victoria Larkin clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms, drawing blood. I froze for a moment. In my past life, she was clearly the victim, yet the truth was twisted, and she was slandered as a bully. Back then, I was one of those who slandered her. Victoria Larkin murmured to herself, "This was the last gift my mom gave me." A flicker of triumph crossed Willow's eyes as she glanced at me out of the corner of her eye. She quickly grabbed Victoria's hand. "Vicky, I'm so sorry. Please don't be angry. Can I buy you a new one?" In my previous life, I was Willow's personal ATM, the kind who eagerly spent money on her. As long as I was around, she was utterly confident. Only, every time I spent money, she'd act as if her pride was wounded, tilting her chin arrogantly and saying, "Who asked you to meddle?" Victoria Larkin shook off Willow's hand. The force was light, but Willow stumbled and fell to the ground, looking shocked and scared, a single tear tracing a perfect path down her cheek. What a flawless, two-faced phony. "Victoria Larkin, how could you hit her? So what if your family's rich?" "Yeah. Willow already apologized and offered to replace your camera. Why did you still push her?" In my past life, because of this incident, Victoria Larkin was bullied and isolated throughout her entire senior year. Unable to bear the humiliation, committed suicide. Remembering the glaring sight of blood from my past life, my heart shuddered. That was the first time my perception of Willow had wavered. I'd never imagined that Willow, who always portrayed herself as kind and independent, would exploit her classmates' sympathy to incite them to bully Victoria. Back then, they spat in her water bottle, threw chalk at her, tore up her books, and used her desk as a trash can. They even dragged her into the bathroom, stripped her, and took naked photos. Ultimately, unable to endure the humiliation, Victoria Larkin killed herself the day before the college entrance exams. In my past life, I had questioned Willow because of this, but I still surrendered to her tearful onslaught. At the time, I thought, maybe it wasn't her intention. Looking back now, all the signs were there. She was never a good person. Coming to my senses, I realized I'd been utterly blind back then, becoming an accomplice to Willow's bullying. People must pay for their mistakes, whether it's Willow Blackwood or the past me. 2. I walked into the crowd and helped Willow up. I think the sun's too strong. It must have made your legs weak. How come you can't even stand properly? Hearing me say this, a few sharp-eyed students realized that Victoria hadn't pushed her. Willow had simply lost her footing. Willow shot me a hateful glare, quickly pushed me away, and said she was fine. "Miss Larkin," I said, "Willow just mentioned she'd compensate you. Although this camera is a memento from your mother, it's broken now, and there's nothing we can do to change that. Please accept my condolences." With that, I took a step back and bowed deeply to her, not for Willow, but as an apology from my past self. These words were like a stone dropped onto a calm lake, sending ripples across the surface. The surrounding crowd instantly erupted. The previously blind classmates suddenly saw clearly and began to speak up for Victoria Larkin all at once. Oh, so it was a memento from her mother. Poor Victoria Larkin. Her mother's memento was broken, and she's being bullied on top of it. Seeing the tables turn, Willow panicked. She quietly tugged at the corner of my shirt and whispered, "Sincere. Miss Larkin, how about this? Let Willow write you an IOU for the full cost of the camera. And, as a token of apology, if you ever need my help in the future, I, Sincere Morgan, will not hesitate." The students around us hooted and whistled, thinking I was playing the hero to save a damsel in distress for Willow's sake. Only I knew I was doing it for myself. With my facilitation, Willow Blackwood signed an IOU for $50,000, to be repaid within a year. Willow, assuming I would pay it for her, signed with full confidence. In my past life, I did indeed pay it for her, but all I got in return was her scorn and a mind-your-own-business. Now, just as she was about to speak, I turned and walked away, leaving her alone and flustered. "Weren't you striving to be an independent woman? I can't insult you with money." On her path to independence, I gave her a little push. Yes, hiding my contributions and fame, this was only the beginning. Lately, Willow Blackwood has been, coincidentally, appearing around me, calling them chance encounters. When no one was around, Willow dropped the act, her chin held high. "Aumantha. Lend me $20,000, I'll pay you back later." A fragile little flower in public, but playing the aloof, strong female lead with me in private. Is there any strong female led this shameless? Miss Larkin's repayment deadline is a year. You can pay it back slowly. A trace of impatience flickered in Willow's eyes but quickly vanished. It's not about that. My mom's been hospitalized and needs money urgently. Otherwise, why would I come begging you? Plenty of people are willing to lend me money. If it weren't for my mom, I wouldn't even ask. Willow still looked down her nose at me. I looked down and happened to see right up her nostrils, clear enough to count the hairs. Previously, whenever I proactively helped her, she'd always accuse me of meddling. She accepted my help but didn't want to owe me any favors. What a classic case of wanting to have her cake and eat it too. Which hospital is Mrs. Blackwood in? Transfer her to my family's hospital. I'll waive her medical fees. Willow looked impatient. No need, just lend me the $20,000. Just then, 2 classmates happened to walk by. I deliberately raised my voice. You always said that me spending money on you was an insult. I've reflected deeply and decided I can't insult you like that anymore. I can't be a stumbling block on your path to becoming an independent woman. You fine. Don't lend it then." Afraid of being overheard, Willow stomped her foot and hurried away. What sick mother? She wanted the money only to suck up to her crush, to buy him his favorite limited edition sneakers. In my past life, I was such a massive sucker, eagerly spending my money for her to support another man. I paid for her food, clothes, housing, and transport everything from a cup of bubble tea to designer bags. And she acted like it was her due, always saying, "Don't think you can demand anything from me just because you spent money on me." She poured me every day, saying poor people have pride too, and that by mentioning money, I was insulting her. She hardly represented the poor. What kind of poor person wears head-to-toe designer brands and carries bags worth tens of thousands? 3. I first met Willow Blackwood in middle school. Her father had just passed away, and she always had this bright yet melancholic air about her, single-handedly caring for her frail mother and brother. I was drawn to her strength and courage. My family had wanted to sponsor her, but we heard someone else was already covering her school fees. My parents, George and Eleanor Morgan, felt sorry for her and often bought her clothes. My younger sister, Wendy, would even buy an extra one for Willow whenever she bought something for herself. But this kindness soured when it reached her. She'd always come to me, aggrieved, complaining that my family looked down on her, that even though she was poor, she had dignity and wouldn't accept handouts. Back then, I was so PUA'd by her, my brain must have been kicked by a donkey. Whenever I saw her cry, I thought she was right and always felt guilty towards her. Thinking back now, who forced her to accept those gifts? If you had so much dignity, why didn't you refuse them? During this period when Willow wasn't bothering me, my legs didn't ache, my back wasn't sore, food tasted great, and I felt fantastic. Unfortunately, the good times didn't last. Just like in my past life, the school bully, Dustin Davis, came looking for me. Dustin was the eldest son of the Davis family from the capital, a family that had business dealings with mine. In our past life, he and I came to blows over Willow, directly affecting the business cooperation between our two families. In the end, Willow's crush reaped all the benefits, swallowing up both our companies. In my past life, my family was destroyed. The Davis family didn't fare much better. After their company went bankrupt, they lived in disgrace. But when my parents fell ill, and everyone else abandoned us like worn-out shoes, it was Mr. and Mrs. Davis Sr. who took out all their savings to pay for my parents' treatment. I was immensely grateful to Dustin's family. So, when he came looking for me, full of aggression and ready to settle scores, I excitedly gave him a big bear hug. This guy, who seemed to enter with his own background music, froze. I silently pressed the stop button on his phone's music player. Before he could speak, I said, "I don't like Willow Blackwood, and she doesn't like me. There's no need for us to fight over her." Dustin opened his mouth as if to say something, but ended up frantically pushing me away first. "This young master isn't into men. Don't you dare have any ideas about me." He said this while crossing his arms, looking as if he was afraid I'd force myself on him. I face-palmed with a wry smile. He really was cute. In the coffee shop, it was just me and Dustin. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating one half of the boy's face, leaving the other in shadow. "Willow is just using me as a shield. She doesn't like me. Then who does she like? Think about it. Which guy is she obviously subservient and deferential to?" Dustin pondered for a moment, then his eyes lit up. "Her homeroom teacher. Her grades are bad, so she's most afraid of her homeroom teacher." I gave him a look one might reserve for a lovable idiot and said bluntly, "It's her brother." "She's in love with her brother." Dustin's jaw dropped. "Incest? She's playing such high stakes?" Willow's brother is named Marcus Miller. He doesn't share Mr. Blackwood's surname, nor Mrs. Helen Blackwood's. And he's the same age as Willow, only 2 months younger. Having said this much, Dustin should understand now, right? He clapped his hands. I get it, they're fraternal twins. She had Willow first, then the brother. Mrs. Blackwood is amazing. Dustin looked so pleased with his brilliant deduction that I couldn't help but pat him on the head. They're not blood-related. Marcus Miller is the illegitimate son of Miles Miller Sr., the head of the Miller family in the capital, and he was fostered with Willow's family. He's the one Willow truly loves, but they can't go public now because of their sibling status. Willow is currently still in the unrequited love stage, and Marcus is even less likely to reveal his status as an illegitimate son. But their affair will soon be exposed. In my past life, I was the one who took the fall for them, allowing them to escape unscathed. In this life, I'm eagerly awaiting that day. For, whom the gods would destroy, they first make mad. Willow's strong, independent goddess's image began to crack before I even had to lift a finger. I hadn't given her a single cent during this time. Her so-called strength and independence were just empty words. Don't think you can humiliate me with money, I'll pay you back. A master of PUA, specializing in targeting love-struck fools like me and Dustin. Dustin had also been observing from afar lately, staying out of her sight. So, she was genuinely broke now, yet she hadn't curbed her habits of extravagant spending and splurging like water. Samuel and I ran into her at the school supermarket. She was holding 2 bottles of Perrier, trying to pay, but her card was declined. The cashier urged her to pay. She rummaged through her LV bag for ages but couldn't find a single coin. Seeing me, she walked over with a smug look, that arrogant chin tilted up again. Sincere Morgan, I'll give you a chance. Pay for me. I've been very disappointed in you these past few days. Transfer $10,000 into my account, and I'll forgive you. Samuel, beside me, tugged my arm. How can she talk to you like that? Why does she ask you for money like you owe it to her? The surrounding students also started whispering. I heard them saying things like, why is she bullying Sincere Morgan like that? Just as I was about to speak, a voice came from the entrance. How can a beggar ask for money with such shameless audacity? I turned. Victoria Larkin was standing at the entrance, her face flushed with anger. She turned to me. Sincere Morgan, you said before that if I ever needed your help, you'd agree, right? I nodded. Good, I forbid you from ever giving Willow Blackwood money again. I was ecstatic. Such a good deal. Willow, flustered, squeezed out a few tears. The fragrant scent of green tea, here we go again. Just as she was about to play the victim, Victoria took a step back. Willow Blackwood, others might not know you, but don't I? Stop crying, poor to me. A student tried to speak up for Willow, muttering, her family really is struggling. Victoria rolled her eyes, furious. My Larkin family has been sponsoring you. We pay your tuition and give you $5,000 a month for living expenses. Isn't that enough for you? Look at you, dressed in designer brands. The bag you're carrying alone costs tens of thousands. What face do you have to cry poor in front of everyone? Wow. I couldn't help but applaud, and a few scattered claps joined in around me. Willow hadn't expected Victoria to directly reveal that the Larkin family was sponsoring her. She couldn't maintain her composure. She tilted her neck up, her tone contemptuous. I never begged your family to sponsor me. It was your mom, Laura Larkin, who insisted on sponsoring me back then. A sharp smack Victoria Larkin slapped Willow Blackwood across the face. How dare you mention my mom? My mom was driven to her death by your angering her. An uproar went through the crowd. Such a thing had happened? In my past life, I knew Willow was an ungrateful wretch, but I never expected that besides harming my family, she had also harmed the Larkin family who sponsored her. So, whoever was good to her, she harmed them, right? What a bright and just world, where black is white and white is black. This person's heart must bleed black blood, mustn't it? No, I didn't. You're framing me. She maintained her posture, her eyes pleadingly looking towards me. My gaze was distant. I shrugged, indicating I was powerless to help. Victoria Larkin took out her phone. It showed a video of Willow arguing with Mrs. Laura Larkin. Willow was asking Mrs. Larkin for $20,000. Mrs. Larkin was advising her to focus on her studies and not to compete with others in terms of food and clothing. As a result, Willow started cursing loudly, saying if Mrs. Larkin didn't want to give her money, she shouldn't have sponsored her in the first place, accusing her of wanting to be a whore while still wanting a monument to her chastity. Her level of profanity was astounding. Mrs. Larkin was so angered she had a heart attack on the spot, and Victoria had only recently seen this surveillance footage. How can Willow Blackwood be so evil? Her previous aloof persona must have been an act, right? She was clearly living off someone else's money but always tried to project an image of an independent, innocent girl. This is some serious backlash, huh? She's too evil. Can't someone call the police and have her arrested? Willow collapsed to the ground, her legs genuinely weak from fear this time. People were still chattering when Marcus Miller suddenly appeared. He pushed through the crowd, picked up Willow, and paused to look at me as he passed. His eyes were fierce, cold, and held a look of seeing through everything. A shiver ran down my spine. In my past life, Marcus Miller only became hostile towards me after university. What was with this look now? As if he wanted to eat me alive. Could the events of my past life be starting earlier? 5. A brother and sister dating such a thing would be front-page news, not just in school but in society columns too. In my past life, a scene of Willow secretly kissing Marcus was witnessed by other students. For a time, rumors of their incestuous love flew wildly. Marcus's father, Miles Miller Sr., used his connections but couldn't stop the students' gossiping hearts. He even decided to disown Marcus to avoid tarnishing the Miller Corporation's reputation. In the end, I took the fall, admitting that the person Willow had kissed at that time was me. At that moment, with the beauty in my arms, I declared in front of all the students, "Willow and I are both 18. What's wrong with being in a relationship?" My past self was quite moved by my own actions, thinking I at least held some place in her heart. Naive. Far too naive. In this life, I didn't want to meddle. I'd be thrilled to see them despised by everyone. Unexpectedly, Marcus Miller, with whom I had almost no interaction in my previous life, sought me out. "Ahem. Sincere Morgan. Can you help me?" The 6'2", Marcus Miller slumped into the sofa, his face slightly flushed. "Why should I help you? This doesn't seem to benefit me at all." I took a sip of my yogurt drink and offered him one too. "As long as you're willing to help me, you can ask for anything." "Oh? But what can you give me? Or should I say, are you confident you'll inherit the Miller Corporation in the future?" Marcus snapped his head up, a dangerous glint in his eyes. "How did you know?" "I treat Willow like a sister. Naturally, she hasn't hidden some things from me." At the mention of Willow, a trace of impatience flickered in Marcus's eyes. He took a deep gulp of his yogurt drink and ruffled his hair. "If you treat her like a sister, why can't you help her out? How do you know this situation isn't what she wants? Worst case, your identity as an illegitimate son gets exposed, but then she can openly become your girlfriend." Marcus clenched his yogurt drink, his gaze deep and fixed on me. Finally, he seemed to make a decision. "I can write a formal agreement to give you $50 million. I'll give it to you the day I inherit Miller Corp. I want $100 million, and you must promise that during your tenure as head of Miller Corp, you will never move against the Morgan family." He gritted his teeth. "Fine. In my past life, because we lost the Davis family's cooperation, my Morgan family took a huge risk and invested a large amount of capital to bid on a new project. But before the bid, Willow stole our proposal. In the end, Marcus Miller's company won the bid, and my family's capital chain broke, leading to bankruptcy. My sister, Wendy, was sold by them into the remote mountains, and unable to bear the humiliation, She killed herself. My parents, unable to withstand the blow, also fell ill. Back then, I begged Willow, begged her to spare my family, but she showed a look of disgust. Sincere Morgan, I've hated your whole family since middle school, so what if you're rich? Aren't you begging me like a dog now? Sincere Morgan, don't think I don't know. Back then, no one in your family respected me. You only knew how to humiliate me with money. Sincere Morgan, everything that's happening now is what you deserve. I looked at her wild, distorted face, my heart like dead ashes. Yes, I deserved it, for being so blind as to fall for such an ungrateful wretch. She and Marcus Miller hired people to break my legs and then set a fire, burning me alive. Before I died, I prayed to the heavens. If I were to live again, I would crush them into the dirt. Everything I suffered, I would make them repay 1,000, 100,000 times over Reborn. I still stepped forward when their incestuous affair scandal was at its peak. I put my arm loosely around Willow's waist, enduring the physical revulsion, and put on an act. Of course, Marcus's empty promises weren't enough. I also approached Miles Miller Sr. and secured several highly profitable projects for my family's company. Enduring humiliation to carry out a mission, accumulating strength for a decisive move. As for that despicable couple, I'll play with them slowly. During the first mock exam, a small incident occurred. Willow Blackwood was caught cheating and publicly criticized. To ensure the Larkin family continued to sponsor her, she needed to get good grades on this mock exam. She initially wanted me, the top student in the year, to tutor her, but I refused. Later, she approached Marcus Miller, who was second in the year, and was rejected by him too. Too much air conditioning makes you sick. Meddling too much in other people's affairs can be fatal. Let go of the savior complex. Respect others' destinies. Later, I don't know where she got the confidence to think I still liked her. As the college entrance exams approached, just like in my past life, she dragged me to skip class every day to play games with her. Samuel Sawyer advised me to ignore her, saying she was hindering my studies to reduce Marcus Miller's competition for the top spot in science. I waved my hand. I had to go. Whether it hindered my studies was another matter. I had to ensure it hindered hers. In my previous life, because she dragged me to skip class every day, she herself only managed to scrape into a community college. Back then, I was so focused on taking the exams with her that I refused a guaranteed admission spot. As a result, I didn't even get into Wudaoku Vocational Technical College. I only got into an ordinary top-tier university. After the college entrance exams, unsurprisingly, Willow only got into a community college. Marcus Miller, the second-ranked student, somehow underperformed in the exams and ended up in an ordinary top-tier university. And I received my acceptance letter from the most prestigious university. Seeing my acceptance letter, Willow cried out that it was impossible. At the crowded classroom entrance, she loudly proclaimed that I skipped class every day, had no time to study, and must have cheated. More and more onlookers gathered. I shot her a sidelong glance. Was she stupid? I didn't even need to take the exam. I had guaranteed admission. You idiot, when the students saw it was me. Didn't everyone know that the top student in the year had guaranteed admission to that prestigious university? Looking at Willow, then at me, they shook their heads, feeling sorry for me. The top student, ruined by a fool. I also took the opportunity to clarify that we had already broken up. I didn't want to give her any chance to use my name to swindle others. From then on, the gears of revenge officially began to turn. 6. After the college entrance exams, I had Samuel Sawyer stay at my house. In my past life, he died trying to save Willow. Reborn, I had to save him. Samuel would save Willow entirely because I liked her. Back then, Willow was harassed in a bar. Marcus went to save her, and severely injured the harasser. A private settlement required $1 million, which they couldn't produce immediately, so Willow hid Marcus. When the victim's associates came looking for Willow to force Marcus's whereabouts out of her, Samuel happened to be there. At that time, if Willow had just revealed Marcus's location, Samuel wouldn't have died. But she watched, stone-faced, as Samuel's fingers were cut off one by one, enduring immense torture. Yet she refused to give up Marcus's address. Willow seized the chance to escape but didn't call the police, leading to Samuel bleeding to death. She clearly had a chance to save him, but she didn't. She was afraid that if she called the police, they would arrest Marcus too. In this life, I will definitely protect everyone I love. Sure enough, just like in my past life, Willow came to me, looking dejected and desperate. "Sincere Morgan, quickly, lend me $1 million. I need it urgently." I flatly said no. Seeing my firm attitude, Willow softened her approach, holding my hand and cooing, "Sincere." I shook her off, my face full of disgust. Willow's expression changed instantly. "Don't you like me? Who are you putting on this ghastly face for?" My heart jolted. Indeed, all these years I'd been good to her, liked her, she knew all along. It's just that she had no heart. It could never be warmed. I pinched her face, my tone icy. "So you knew all along? All these years, if I'd raised a dog, it would at least know to wag its tail at me. And you? You're worse than a dog." Seeing the hatred in my eyes, she grew scared and struggled desperately. I let go and wiped my hand with a tissue. "Don't let me see you again. I won't give you a single cent. If you want to scrape together $1 million, you'd be better off begging other men. Or maybe buy a lottery ticket and try your luck." I raised my hand to smooth my hair. She thought I was going to hit her, flinched, and quickly ran off. I watched her retreating figure with a faint smile. Everything was under control. In my past life, that $1 million came from selling the jade pendant my grandmother had given me. I had always cherished that jade pendant. My grandmother had obtained it for me after I recovered from a serious illness as a child. She had a master consecrate it, saying it would protect me and ensure my lifelong safety. After my grandmother passed away, I treasured the pendant even more. At the time, I was just a student with limited monthly allowance. My parents would never have casually given me $1 million. Willow cried pitifully in front of me, saying she would die if she couldn't get the money. Her tears fell into my heart. How could I have borne to see her sad back then? As a result, she took the money without even a word of thanks, and just left. Later, she and Marcus Miller got their happy ending together, while I, the backup option and cannon fodder, wasn't even worthy of a name in their story. Thinking back now, perhaps it was fate. I sold the jade pendant meant to protect me, and in the end, I met a terrible death. My grandmother in heaven must have been very disappointed in me, right? Being love-struck is deadly. Reborn, the first thing I did was discard that nonsense. My head hurts. Feels like I'm growing a new brain. The most skilled hunters often appear in the guise of prey. Sometimes, all it takes is a little psychological suggestion to push someone into the abyss. At the intersection Willow ran towards, there was a lottery stand. She bought a scratch ticket and was lucky enough to win $50,000. But $50,000 was a drop in the ocean compared to $1 million. Just then, she looked up and saw a casino sign across the street. Take a gamble. Turn a bicycle into a motorcycle. Willow's outcome was predictable. She went in with $50,000 and came out $2 million in debt. Unwilling to give up, she actually caused a scene at the casino, accusing them of cheating and threatening to call the police. After all these years under my and Dustin's protection, where she got almost everything she wanted, she never imagined that one day society would beat her down, and in the most brutal way. 4 or 5 burly men from the casino dragged her to the back and had their fun with her. In the end, unable to pay her debts, She was thrown into a nightclub to work as a hostess. Stay away from porn, gambling, and drugs, for the safety of you, me, and everyone. Amen. 7 facts proved that the school beauty was indeed the school beauty. Willow's superb green tea skills allowed her to thrive, even in the nightclub. I heard that within a short month, she had become the top hostess at the Dark Horse nightclub. However, there were always seniors who would beat her up every few days. Every part of her body, except for her face, was bruised and battered. The next time I saw her, it was on a promotional card. Willow was dressed in flimsy white gauze, her figure alluring, her eyes glistening as if with tears, looking like a flower ready to be plucked by any man. She desperately wanted to find a sugar daddy to save her from her dire situation, constantly flirting with seemingly wealthy customers. This earned her quite a few brutal beatings. In the end, I helped her out. I found her a sugar daddy, Quentin Quinn, the head of the Quinn family from Hai Cheng, a figure even the Miller family from the capital wouldn't dare to provoke. He was rich and powerful, but his tastes were eclectic and depraved, brutal, ruthless, with his own unique perspectives on bedroom matters. He had many mistresses, but none of them lived long. They were either tortured to death by him in bed or dealt with by his wife, Isabella Quinn, who had underworld connections. At first, Willow was overjoyed to be rescued from the fiery pit by Quentin Quinn. He even paid off her $2 million gambling debt. But Quentin Quinn wasn't stupid. There was no way he would cough up the $1 million needed to save Marcus Miller. Spend money for his mistress to support another man? Did she think everyone was a huge sucker like me? Tricking a big shot is one thing, but trying to trick a big shot out of money? Truly naive. After Willow was taken away, I had someone take plenty of videos of her and Quentin Quinn. I then forwarded them all to Marcus Miller, doing good deeds without seeking recognition, hiding my contributions and fame. Good news. Marcus Miller not only didn't blame Willow, but he fell even more in love with her because of her sacrifices for him. The scumbag couple, deeply locked in. Bad news. The person he had severely injured was Quentin Quinn's son, and Marcus's whereabouts were discovered. Marcus Miller was dragged back to the Quinn family. This pair of desperate lovebirds, one in Quentin Quinn's hands, the other in Mrs. Quinn's. Originally, I wanted to call the police directly and let Marcus face legal punishment. But since the Quinn family stepped in, I was happy to see it happen. Looking at my own still intact hands, Marcus's hands and feet probably wouldn't be spared, would they? In my past life, after my family went bankrupt, I went to Willow to borrow money for my parents' medical treatment. It was this despicable couple who had my legs broken and my fingers cut off. At that time, Willow held a knife and cut my fingers, joint by joint. After finishing, she even cooed to Marcus Miller. "Aren't I amazing?" Marcus Miller nodded, ruffling her hair indulgently. Then he turned to me with a mocking look. "You look like a dog, don't you?" "Yeah, he's not even as gutsy as that idiot friend of his." Samuel Sawyer also had his fingers cut off one by one like this and bled to death. He was even struggling then, telling me to hurry up and run. Ha ha, what an idiot. Who asked him to be a hero? Just like you, a total waste. That was the first time I learned the true cause of Samuel's death. My already dead heart flared back to life. I screamed and lunged at that despicable couple. How could they? How could they treat Samuel like that? Samuel went to save her. By then, I had lost too much blood. My body was limp, and I couldn't even manage to slap them. I closed my eyes in despair, shedding tears of blood. These two beasts were living well, while kind people were tormented to death. If the mandate of heaven is flawed, then I shall defy heaven itself. 8. The plot took an unexpected turn. Marcus Miller didn't have his hands and feet broken. Instead, he became Mrs. Isabella Quinn's lover. Marcus Miller was tall, with sharp brows and star-like eyes indeed, exceptionally handsome. However, The blessing of being fancied by Mrs. Quinn was not something an ordinary person could enjoy. As they say, 2 peas in a pod. Mrs. Quinn also had her own special kinks. She liked to use little props, steel wool balls, spiked clubs, things like that. Just hearing about it made one's balls ache. Before long, Marcus Miller became impotent. Meanwhile, Willow Blackwood got pregnant. Quentin Quinn was quite fond of Willow, and after she became pregnant, he often kept her by his side. Such high-profile behavior inevitably attracted Mrs. Quinn's attention. When Willow was 5 months pregnant, she was abducted. Someone literally reached into her uterus with their hand and pulled out the fetus. She was found barely alive, on the verge of death. Although her life was saved, she could never bear children again. Quentin Quinn knew perfectly well who did it, but he didn't make a fuss. For Willow, it wasn't worth it. Quentin Quinn was never one to cherish beautiful women. He tormented Willow several times even before her postpartum confinement period ended. One time, it even caused massive bleeding. Now, she truly had become a fragile, delicate flower, unable to withstand the wind. Willow and Marcus Miller met secretly and escaped from the Quinn estate while Quentin Quinn and his wife were abroad. The two of them, tortured beyond recognition, frantically ran to catch a long-distance bus, hoping to escape the capital. On the bus, an old lady took pity on them and gave them some flatbreads to eat. To escape the Quinns, they hadn't dared to stop for a moment on their journey. They hadn't had a sip of water or a bite of food. They were starving, and the flatbreads from the old lady tasted better than any delicacy. Kids, fresh out of school, are so naive. They had no idea what kind of living hell awaited them. In my past life, Willow had someone abduct my 16-year-old sister Wendy and sell her to human traffickers. Wendy was taken to the remote mountains and sold to an old bachelor. She refused him, so the old bachelor constantly beat her. In the end, unable to bear the humiliation, my sister rammed her head against something and died. And the bus my sister was on when she was abducted back then was the very same one they were on now. The gears of fate turned silently. You reap what you sow. When they woke up again, they were separated. Willow was sold into the deep mountains, where the abusive old bachelor awaited her. Marcus Miller, on the other hand, was sold to an illegal coal mine in some city, whipped daily as he dug coal. They both had wonderful futures awaiting them. Actually, Miles Miller Sr. wasn't entirely unconcerned about his son, but he feared the Quinn family's power and didn't dare to intervene. Now, with Marcus having escaped and the Quinn family's young master gradually recovering, reconciliation wasn't entirely impossible. Only, when he tried to find his son, he couldn't. And I, a kind-hearted citizen who often does good deeds without seeking recognition, lent him a hand. A month later, I handed over clues about the human traffickers to the police. Thanks to my leads, traffickers from 2 separate networks were all apprehended. Countless women and children, as well as a few intellectually disabled adult men, were rescued. When Willow was found, she had been tortured by the old bachelor to the point of being paralyzed in bed, her limbs broken, and Marcus Miller had become an imbecile. When Miles Miller Sr. saw him at the police station, he was drooling and playing with his own ball. The sight was extremely jarring. Miles Miller Sr. was devastated. He threw Marcus into a sanatorium and never visited him again. News that the Miller Corporation had an imbecile, illegitimate son spread like wildfire. Miller Corp's stock plummeted, laying the groundwork for my future acquisition of the company. 9. When Willow was rescued, her nose was crooked, her eyes askew, and her life hung by a thread. She was in and out of the ICU several times. I used the best medical resources and personnel, insisting that the doctors must save her life. She was paralyzed from the neck down, unable to move. After her limbs were broken, she was tormented by endless phantom limb pain every day. I instructed the doctors not to give her any painkillers, Just keeping her alive was enough. I wheeled her out to see the Morgan Corporation, which had now far surpassed the Miller family's enterprise. I showed her my Morgan family castle. She was so enraged that she vomited blood and ended up back in the ICU. Back then, she had always thought the Morgan family were mere upstarts, far inferior to the Millers. That's why, single-mindedly wanting to marry into wealth and power, she had chosen Marcus Miller. But now, Morgan Corp was gradually swallowing up the Miller family's assets. The events of my past life did not happen in this one. Those I love, and those who love me, are all living happily and safely under my protection. After a year of such torment, Willow Blackwood hanged herself in the bathroom. She was kneeling on the floor, the rope tied to a faucet. In that position, if she had just lifted her head slightly, she wouldn't have died. When a person dies, it's like a lamp extinguished. The debts she owed were wiped clean. Now, I have completed the acquisition of Miller Corp. I happily went off to enjoy university life with Samuel. My sister Wendy soon followed, taking her college entrance exams and getting into another highly prestigious university. At the sanatorium, Victoria Larkin and I were walking and talking. I was explaining Morgan Corp's next plan to enter the senior care industry. Victoria was here representing Larkin Corp to discuss a partnership with me. She was now radiant and cheerful, confident and capable every bit the strong businesswoman with the air of a successor. In her past life, she had been bullied in school to the point of slitting her wrists in a suicide attempt. Back then, she always kept her head down, silent, and withdrawn, a completely different person from who she was now. As we walked, she suddenly stopped, staring ahead in disbelief. Marcus Miller was sitting in the sunlight, engrossed in some mindless, solitary play. I quickly covered Victoria's eyes and turned her around. "Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here." Victoria pulled my hand away, her face shocked. "Is that Marcus Miller?" "Yes. The traffickers damaged his brain. He's an imbecile now." Victoria nodded and said resentfully, "Serves him right." There's a story there?" As if hearing my thoughts, Victoria began to tell me about Marcus Miller. She said that in high school, he was a complete player, a human Ken doll relying on his good looks to constantly tease girls into pursuing him. He lived by the 3 no's principle: no initiating, no refusing, no responsibility. Basically, a scumbag and a scupboy. Before the college entrance exams, Marcus Miller even got a female classmate pregnant, nearly causing a fatal incident. Victoria was a bit curious and asked me, "With his brain damaged so severely by violence, is there any hope for him?" I shook my head. The Miller family can barely fend for themselves now. Even if he could be saved, they wouldn't bother to rescue an illegitimate son who was once a madman. Besides, whether he can be saved or not is ultimately up to the doctors to say. Victoria, being innocent and straightforward, didn't catch the hidden meaning in my words. I glanced at the sanatorium's financial report in my hand. Another profitable year. We walked in the sunlight, exchanged a smile. In this world where good and evil eventually get their due, the future will be wonderful.